Shalom Aleichem to everybody, grace and peace be upon you. Welcome to my channel. I'm Apostle Hephzivah and welcome to another in our episode from our Living Higher series. Today we're going to be talking about recognizing our self-worth. Last week we began a new teaching series. We have been looking at the world of honor, and we said in our teaching last week that honor is recognition or respect. Okay, so honor can be defined as recognition or respect. And we said last week that chasing after honor can be a very dangerous thing. If an individual spends his time chasing after recognition from other people, or chasing after respect, or chasing after the praises of other people, if a person becomes so engrossed in making a name for themselves and so on and so forth, this can lead to disaster. How so? Because usually when a person gets to this place where he becomes so engrossed in receiving recognition from other people, he is willing to do whatever it takes to be respected and whatever it takes to be recognized. And so we made the point last week that if we do not control the Yetzer Hara's desire to be seen, to make a good name for ourselves, to be praised by other people, we can affect our relationship with Hashem. This can affect our relationship with Hashem, and it can also affect our relationship with our fellow man. But last week we made the point that chasing after honor can become very self-destructive, because an individual can get to a place where they have no boundaries anymore, where they are willing to do whatever it takes to make a name for themselves, to be recognized by other people, to get the applause of other people, to hear people tell them and pat them on the back and just say how good they are and so on and so forth. And we made the point that chasing after honor is a very dangerous thing. We also made the point last week that honor and recognition and reward is something that comes from Hashem. And if an individual becomes too engrossed in chasing after those things in this world, it can affect our reward in the world to come. I remember last week making the point that a lot of times people become caught up in chasing after recognition because they don't have self-worth. They don't see how valuable they are, so they rely on what other people have to say about them, right? So they rely on the externals in order to feel good about themselves. This week, we're going to look at the importance of recognizing our self-worth. Okay, and we're going to look at what it means to be an honorable person. It says here, when a person chases honor, he shows that he does not sufficiently appreciate his inherent worth, and if he recognized his own value, he would not need the approval of others. Although it is critical to value and respect ourselves, as we will explain, this feeling of self-worth has to be built not from the outside, but from the inside. So a lot of times people associate their value and their worth with what they have, the things they possess, or how other people see them and what other people have to say about them. Okay, but right off the bat, we're being told here that self-worth is not something that is from the outside, right? Our self-worth cannot be built and should not be built from what is coming from the outside. Our self-worth, we cannot value ourselves based on what other people say about us. Because when other people don't say nice things about us, then we're going to be left feeling as if we have no worth. That's a very dangerous place to be. Our worth cannot be based on the things that we possess, right? Because if we lose those things, God forbid, then we are going to begin to feel as if we're nothing, as if we're not valuable. Or if we don't have those things, we're going to begin to feel as if we're nothing. Okay? And so we're being taught today, right, that self-worth has to come from the inside, right? Self-worth is an outgrowth of our recognition of our inherent worthiness. Let's continue. This seems to be the deeper meaning of Kozal's statement in Avot 4:1. Who is an honored person? He who honors others. In other words, a truly honorable person is one who feels intrinsically worthy and is therefore willing to honor others. Someone who is not confident in himself, however, has a hard time honoring others. Now, this is very deep because a lot of times people have a hard time praising other people for good things that they do or for their accomplishment or whatever. People have a hard time recognizing other people's worth, other people's value, recognizing the impact that other people are making, and so on and so forth. And that is because the individual is not confident in himself. Because you cannot honor others if you don't recognize your own worth. A truly honorable person is someone who is able and willing to honor other people. But if you don't see your own value, you can't honor someone else. And this is why a lot of people are not able to recognize other people for the good work that they do, or recognize other people for the impact they're making, or, just basically respect other people because they don't have that inherent feeling of worthiness. It says here, by way of illustration, we can already praise a child who reads well because we're not deficient in that area. But it is perhaps harder for us to praise the success of our peers in areas in which we struggle. Only a person who recognizes his own intrinsic worth can truly respect others, while someone who does not appreciate his own value will have a very difficult time respecting others. For this reason, some people have a hard time hearing others being praised because they question their own self-worth. They can't tolerate seeing others receive honor. Now, this is cause for introspection because when someone is being praised, it causes something to trigger a negative feeling on the inside of you, then we really need to ask ourselves why. Why is someone else being recognized or someone else being honored causing a negative response in me? Could it be that I feel this way because I question my own self-worth? Very, very very, very powerful question here. It says a valuable tool in building our self-worth is the idea that external actions inspire inner change. By pushing ourselves to complement By pushing ourselves to compliment and honor others, even when it is difficult for us, we will boost our feelings of self-worth, since by conducting ourselves as honorable people, we will instill in ourselves feelings of inner honor. Furthermore, lifting the spirit of others results in a feeling of satisfaction, which helps build self-esteem. So here we're being told, if we recognize that we're struggling in this area to honor others, we need to begin to push ourselves to do so. We need to begin to push ourselves to do so. Because as, the sages teach in Mesilat Yesharim that external actions inspire inner change. This is why I have shared with you on so many different occasions that when Hashem says, do this, when Torah says, do this, don't do this, don't do this, we are given commandments because the commandments, as we do the commandments, we are changed. Are you with me? So like when Yeshua says, pray for your enemies, it's not about praying for your enemies because it doesn't help your enemies. In other words, that's what I'm saying. It causes a change on the inside of you. External actions inspire inner change, right? So if we find it difficult to honor other people, we need to begin to push ourselves to do that, right? Because by pushing ourselves to honor people, it is going to cause an effect. It is going to make us begin to feel like honorable people, right? And it is going to create a change, an inner change. And this inner change, it is what is also going to help to build our self-esteem also. Right? Just a few minutes ago, we made the point that self-worth is not built on what's outside. Self-worth is an inner recognition of one's inherent worthiness. So when we begin to honor others, it is creating something on the inside of us. We are going to begin to see our own value. Okay? Someone who spends his whole life chasing honor will always be lacking in self-esteem. For in the depths of his heart, he recognizes that honor from other people is hardly a true measure of his own worth. Such a person cannot be healed until he begins to build himself from the inside by recognizing his true value. So let's talk about self-esteem. What is self-esteem? Self-esteem, as we have explained, is an internal feeling of importance that does not depend on the honor we receive from others. Some people consider themselves humble because they think poorly of themselves and do not feel that they have much value. But are they able to ask the opinion of someone who is of lesser stature, or to admit that they are mistaken or that they do not know something? Those are signs of true humility. But people who think poorly of themselves are likely to struggle in this area. So let's see if we can unpack this. It says that a lot of times people consider themselves humble, but they're really not humble. It's just that they lack self-esteem. They see themselves in a very negative way. They think poorly of themselves, and they do not feel as if they have much value. Right? But true humility is not about feeling or seeing yourself as less than. That's not true humility. True humility is when an individual is able to do things like admitting to their flaws or admitting to making mistakes, admitting to the fact that they're not perfect. That's what true humility is about. It says those are signs of true humility. But people who think poorly of themselves are likely to struggle in this regard. We see then that their low regard for themselves is not a reflection of true humility, but rather it's a lack of self-esteem. So we have to be careful that we do not confuse low self-esteem with humility. It says, a person who truly values himself and his role in the world will have a far easier time acting with true humility because his overall self-worth is not threatened by the existence of deficiencies in himself. So a person who is truly humble is able to say, I made a mistake. That was wrong. Because a truly humble person recognizes that his self-worth is not based on his deficiencies. And as such, he is secure enough to admit his weaknesses. An anav, which is a Hebrew word for a humble person, is someone who recognizes his talents and strengths, but humbly attributes them to Hashem. His life is devoted to the service of God, not to worshiping himself by elevating himself above his peers. Such a person is able to recognize the value of others, since his life is not a series of competitions regarding who is greater than whom. His goal is to serve Hashem faithfully. So we're learning some very powerful insights here today. We're learning, one, that a truly honorable person is one who is able to honor others. However, it's going to be hard to honor others, to give them the recognition and the respect, right? If we have an issue with how we see ourselves. If we don't see ourselves as valuable, it's going to become hard for us to value other people. And one of the ways to deal with that is to begin to push ourselves to recognize the value in other people, to praise other people, to not be afraid to say to someone if they've done a good job, you've done a good job, because honoring somebody and recognizing someone and the gifts and talents that they have and the impact that they're making in this world is not going to devalue you. Okay? It doesn't mean that you are less than, right? And as the sages teach us, when we honor other people, we in turn are honored because of the law of cause and effect. And we're also learning, right, that we should never confuse a lack of self-esteem with humility. Lack of self-esteem is not recognizing our worthiness, not recognizing that we have value, that we have worth, right? We are being taught today that if we truly have someone who is truly humble, is one who understands that his deficiencies don't devalue him. And one who is truly humble recognizes that he's not in competition with anyone. He can see the value in other people, and he can recognize the value in other people without feeling diminished in any way. That's a truly honorable person. Let's continue. Our sages taught us to value ourselves when they said, Each and every one is obligated to say, "For my sake was the world created." Now, you may say no, but that sounds very egotistical. I'm going to stand up and say, "For my sake was the world created." Oh, but there is so much wisdom in this. Let's take a look. What our sages mean with this statement is that every single person has a unique place and mission in this world and is irreplaceable. There can be no greater affirmation of the value of every individual. So, one of the ways to recognize that we're all valuable and we're all unique is by recognizing, as the sages say, "For my sake was the world created." It doesn't mean that we're the only one in this world and everything revolves around us and so on and so forth. No, but it means that we have to begin to understand that we all have a mission and we all have a unique role to play. So each person is valuable. It says, "This teaching of Khazal is also an answer to a person who feels distressed that he is not as gifted as his friends. He has to know that his task in this world is not to excel in a one-size-fits-all task, but rather to fulfill the unique role Hashem has carved out for him." Okay, so each person needs to understand that we don't need to be in competition. We don't need to be comparing ourselves with that person over here and this person over there. Because let me tell you something, comparison is a thief. It steals your joy and your peace. Because there's always going to be somebody who is greater than you, someone who is excelling more, someone who has accomplished more, someone who is doing greater things than you are doing. But it doesn't diminish your place in this world, and it doesn't diminish your mission in this world, right? And so if we keep on comparing ourselves to our peers, we are going to be miserable. And if we keep on thinking that our value and our worthiness is based on external things, that's also going to make us miserable, right? So we have to begin to see ourselves, each and every one of us, wherever we are in this world, that we have a unique mission. And the fact that we have a unique mission means that our path is going to be different. Okay? So I couldn't be out there trying to be the CEO of a huge company or the COO of a huge organization, right? Because my unique mission in this world is to teach the Torah, right? Now, if I were to be over here looking at somebody else over there in their CEO capacity and being very miserable about it because that's where I should be, what's happening to my mission over here in my little universe, in my little world over here? What's happening with my work over here? But the moment I begin to see value in what I've been called to do and begin to see value in myself and begin to see that what I'm doing over here, I'm doing avodat Hashem, I'm doing in service to Hashem, then I can still recognize the greatness of the CEO over here and maybe support the CEO over here in whatever way I can, recognizing that we all have our unique mission in the world. All of us couldn't be the head. Somebody had to be the foot. Somebody had to be a hand. Somebody had to be a finger, right? But all the members come together so that the body is able to function effectively. So let's continue. I want to share with you an example that's given here, right? And I think it's so powerful. It says, Khazal stressed that a person is obligated to say, "For my sake, the world was created." That is not an optional statement that one can say to make himself feel good. It is an overwhelming obligation. Every person is required to perfect himself in order to fulfill his own purpose. And if he does not, his personal universe is lost forever. So if I don't find value and see the importance of the work that I have been called over here to do, right? It's going to affect my world over here, my little universe, my little plot of land, if you will, that Hashem has given me to work. Okay? It says, consequently, we have an extraordinary responsibility, and with that comes exceptional importance. By way of analogy, the President of the United States is considered the most important person in the world because his actions affect the world significantly, and even the smallest decision on his part can have a monumental impact. In truth, however, each one of us is a president, not just of one country, but of an entire universe. And our every action, whether positive or negative, has a massive impact. Just as the president cannot forget his position for even a moment and must constantly remain cognizant of the import of his actions, we must each be aware at all times how important we are and how our actions are impacting our world. Someone who realizes how significant he is and how meaningful his actions are will feel at all times that he is accomplishing great things and will not fall into the despair that stems from the feeling that I don't matter and my actions don't matter. Today, I'm here to tell you that you matter. Each and every one of you under the sound of my voice today matters. And as I'm talking to you, this is what I just got a flash of something in spiritually. I saw a building, right? And each and every one of us today, right? We are a stone in this building. Okay? You know, in the Brit Hadashah, we read that we're all living stones that are being built into a temple, right? Into the house of Hashem. If one stone is missing, there's going to be a problem because the building is not going to be able to stand. One stone being missing, the building is not going to be able to stand. That's how valuable you are. That's how valuable I am. So it doesn't matter where we find ourselves. You know, I hear a lot of people say all the time, "Oh, I feel so lost because I don't know my purpose." Your purpose is right where you are right now, right here. It's part of your journey. If it wasn't part of purpose, you wouldn't be here right now. So a lot of times we tend to look at other people. Oh, this person is doing that. That person is doing that. That person is making headway and I'm doing nothing over here. It is time for us to begin to shift our focus and begin to it's like relearning and renewing our minds. We need to begin to see, even if you're over here right now and you feel as if you're doing nothing, part of this feeling of not doing nothing or not doing anything at this time is part of your unique journey. It's okay if you feel as if you're sitting over here not doing anything, because you might feel as if you're not doing anything in the physical, but you're being processed spiritually. Maybe you're being taught patience. Maybe you're being taught to wait on God. Maybe you are being drawn into a time of prayer and a time of resting in God. It doesn't matter. The point I'm trying to make, and I pray that you're getting it, is even if you feel as if you are not doing anything and you have no value, that's not of God. Because right now, right here, right where you are, you have value. You are valuable. And you're part of Hashem's plan. You are the president of your own little world that Hashem has given you to influence, and your little work that God has given you to do. And I know I've read this already, but I gotta read it again. Just as the president cannot forget his position for even a moment and must constantly remain cognizant of the import of his actions, we must each be aware at all times of how important we are and how our actions are impacting our world. Someone who realizes how significant he is and how meaningful his actions are will feel at all times that he is accomplishing great things and will not fall into the despair that stems from the feeling that I don't matter and my actions don't matter. I want to share with you from Genesis 1:27, and this is what it says. We all know it very well. It says, Genesis 1:27, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. It reminds us that we are created in the image of Hashem. And keep that in mind, because I'm going to share with you a parable in closing. It says, there is a well-known parable of a young prince who does not wish to play in the mud like other children, even though he knows he would enjoy the activity. It is not worthwhile to him to forfeit his dignity for the sake of this fleeting enjoyment. Similarly, a person who recognizes his own importance and knows that he is a child of the King of Kings will not want to behave like a commoner. If we know that we have been created in the image and likeness of God, how can we see ourselves as not worthy, as not valuable? Can't you see, and can't I see, that every time we begin to feel like that this is a plan of the enemy to rob us of our identity, to rob us of who we truly are, to pull the veil over our eyes, and to make us feel as if we're nothing, when the scriptures tell us in whose image we have been created? And because we have been created in the image of Hashem, it means that we have to live our lives not as commoners, but as children of the King. Someone who lacks this self-esteem, however, will have a hard time mustering the willpower to overcome his desires for the pleasures of the world. It is therefore critical that we instill in our hearts the feeling that each one of us is precious and important. And when we get this, when we get that we are valuable in the eyes of Hashem, we don't need to go out there and be chasing after honor and recognition from the outside world. Powerful lesson this week. I pray that the Ruach will minister to you as you go on your journey this week. And I look forward to seeing you again very soon as we continue our discussion and as we learn to live higher. Shalom, shalom, and kol tov. you.